have both.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
Was all a dream.
Good morning.
Really needs what I call a shitbird.
Good morning, S-Birds. What's going on? Kings Court, Tuesday. 1 day away from preseason basketball here in Sacramento. Been at every day at training camp. Here for a little of questions and answers. If you have any questions about camp, happy to answer what I know. Monday Night Football last night. The Chiefs. Is this iteration of the Chiefs done? I think it is. Patrick Mahomes, still going to be fine. That team's going to be fine. But back to the drawing board. I feel, you know what? You're probably going to run this back in 4-5 months and say, what an awful take. That did not age well. Because that's usually what happens when you say anything contrary to the success of the Chiefs. But we will see Trevor Lawrence. How the heck did he recover on that play to get in the end zone? It's pretty amazing. I woke up to a lot of disappointment this morning. I did. Go with me here for a second, then I'll get to the chat. You know, I thought we turned a corner with Jara, Mr. Jones, and me here on the King's Court. I thought we turned a corner. And then I go to ESPN.com and I see this. Check this out. If you weren't with us yesterday, Jerry Jones was giving the bird. So I'll play the
Every
drop.
team really needs what I call a shitbird.
He was giving the bird to fans at MetLife Stadium. But it wasn't like a solid bird where you address the perimeter of the stadium, you make sure you go all the way around. No, it wasn't one of those. He was like pointing at fans like, you get a bird, like Oprah giving away cars. And I'm like, you know what? I don't condone the use of the bird, especially if you're driving in a car. That's a reason to go. How about Mark Sanchez? Holy bleep. Did you see the video of him staggering before he was stabbed? Allegedly. That the New York Post released? Back to Jara. Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones said, an unfortunate gesture made to fans in MetLife Stadium stands Sunday was inadvertent. I was giving him praise. I said he owned it. I said he got his money's worth. It was one of the better things the old man has done in recent memory. Quote, that was unfortunate. That was kind of an exchange with our fans in front of us, Jones said Tuesday on 105.3 The Fan. The audio is not up or else we would be playing it right now. You know that. There was a swarm of Cowboys fans in front, not Jets fans, Cowboys fans. The entire stadium was brimming with enthusiasm of Cowboys and certainly late in the game. Quote, the gesture was inadvertent on my part. Here we go. Because that was right after we made our last touchdown. And we were all excited about it. There wasn't any antagonistic issue or anything like that. I just put up the wrong show on the hand. The wrong show? This guy's referencing shows with his hand? All right. So he put the wrong finger up? I'm not kidding. If you want to call it accidental, you can call it accidental. But it got straightened around pretty quick. I had a chance to look at it. It got straightened out pretty quick. But the intention was thumbs up. And basically pointing at our fans because everybody was jumping up and down, excited. All right, couple things here. I see what Jerry's trying to do. Let's play both sides of the road out here. Hey, that stadium was full of Cowboys fans. We were winning. Why would I be giving my fan base the bird? That doesn't make any sense. It was just a mistake. Sometimes I have slip-ups. I mean, you remember when Micah Parsons was officially traded? Let's count how many times Jerry called Micah Michael.
There was no question in our mind that Michael could bring us
One.
a lot of resources on a trade. When you have the kind of extraordinary pass rush that Michael had,
2,
more or less, that we don't have that excellence that Michael Parsons
Tres.
has there, but we do have the depth. The other thing that I would like to say is I firmly made a commitment to Michael this spring.
Quattro.
Micah,
Did you at any point talk one-on-one with Micah to try and figure this out?
did I talk to Michael?
Micah.
That's the best part. From the number 5, Stephen Jones is like, Micah. Anyways, so Jerry's taking it that route, okay? Here's the route that I think it really went. It's New York fan. You can be from New York and be a Cowboys fan, right? You think they're happy about the Micah trade? No. You think those fans were giving it to Jerry regardless of the Cowboys winning and scoring about trading Micah? Yes. So which way? Are you with my version of the story or are you with Jerry's version? Where there was a mistake with the show on his hand and it was supposed to be a thumbs up. Find me a better piece of audio than this. Please, somebody.
Figure this out.
Did I talk to Michael?
Micah.
Micah. Anyways, I know you're here for the Kings, but we had to follow up on that. We had to follow up on it. I'm sorry. It's what we do. By the way, we stick around this morning until the coffee stays hot. Kings getting ready to practice here in just a few minutes. In fact, they probably are just tipping off right now. Media availability begins at 12:30 today. I will be down at the G1C. As always, you'll get video, audio on my X account right away, and then we will talk about it at 3 p.m. on Fox Sports Sacramento, the Grant Napier Show. So get in here. Let's get to your questions. Good morning, Dennis. First one in. What's going on? Chris Jones quit on the play. I missed that. Tedora, good morning. How are you? Chris Jones looked like he thought the play was over and quit. Yes, I missed that. All right. Sanchez, thoughts on the Kings camp so far? Do you see any improvements from last season? Yeah, there are a couple things that I see. The first is Grant's fought me on this on the radio. He really has. And I get it. He called games for 32 years. He's seen 32 training camps. But the turmoil, the confusion, the frustration within the organization, especially in that locker room, about what's going on with the coaches and what's going on with, and even with the players too. I should say that. And that was up until the De'Aaron Fox trade. But there was some weird stuff going on there too. But back to the organization. I did not expect DeMar DeRozan to step into camp on media day and basically own something that none of us really um, had any clue about. I mean, I didn't see anything in DeMar's play that made me feel like he was off. Said he wasn't right last year. Both him and Domas said they were the hardest seasons of their career. Craziest seasons. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the exact verbiage. There is a universal buy-in to what Doug Christie is doing right now. There is. And for better or worse, I would have expected to get worse. Still a little skepticism into all this, and the Scott Perry hiring and Domas maybe feeling, it's a dog and pony show. This is still the exact same situation. Now, I have not seen Vivek Ranadive. I have not heard anything about Vivek meddling, but that's still a factor. These guys believe in what Doug Christie is asking them to do. And not only do they believe it, they are doing it every day. The conditioning, they want to be the best conditioned team in the NBA. Every single time we've walked into the gym for media availability, they're doing some type of conditioning drill. Also, the communication in this group is much better than last year. The way this team is talking, both on the court and off the court, I really like that. And Doug is throwing in some wrinkles to the offense. We have not seen nearly all of them. There's still going to be more to come, and they'll be throughout the season. More on top of that. But when I watch the team get up and down during 5-on-5s, they're getting really good looks. Some of those shots are not going down. They're getting really good looks. So here's what I'd say to you, Sanchez. This team, and I said it yesterday, if this team was compared to last year's team, I would say this year's team has a better chance to take that jump that we thought last year's team was going to take. Now, the nuance to that is, of course, the West. The West is so much harder this year. So that kind of evens out the playing field. But there is a level of physicality. There is a level of trust between some of these guys. And to hear that Zach's picking up 94 feet from time to time, from here to hear DeMar's doing that, DeMar has really put himself. In fact, let me make a point of this, and I put it on my X account. If I had to point at somebody that's the leader of this team right now, it's DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is in the middle of everything. When the team lines up at the end of practice, so what they do is they'll do their conditioning segment, or they'll be doing their fives. And then after that, the entire team lines up on the baseline under the hoop, and Doug calls out one guy to come shoot 2 free throws, or sometimes he'll say 1 free throw. If you miss the free throw, the team has to run up and back. And DeMar is always the guy in the middle, under the net, handling the basketball, throwing it to his teammates. To me, there is some symbolism there. And I just like the feel of what we're seeing. I would say this, and again, this is an incredibly hard West. We know what the owner is going to do at times, but to see interactions with Scott Perry and Doug Christie talking 15, 20 minutes after practice, to see the interactions with the players and management and Coach Christie, there's open lines of communication there that I don't necessarily think were there last year, especially in training camp. I don't think the players had that open line of communication with Coach Brown. I think Coach Brown had dug his heels firmly into the sand because he had just gotten a contract extension and said, you know what, we're doing it this way, boys. I don't care what you think. This is what we're doing. So the best analogy I can use, when you look at the team on paper, a lot of talent, but it doesn't necessarily pull together, right? You don't have a lot of those, what we call glue pieces, the role players, the universal pieces. But Doug is finding a way to mold some of these guys into that. But what's more important than all of it is you have Dennis Schroeder. And Dennis Schroeder, going to be 32 years old. No, he's not the point guard of the future for the Kings, not by a long shot. But I do think he is a very good point guard for what this group needs with what this group wants to do. And we've got audio from Doug that we'll talk about. Like the analogy I've been using all off season is, if you've ever seen Nick Wallenda, who does the, blindfolded high wire walks between skyscrapers, he always has that bar that he's holding, right? So if he gets a little off balance, he can pull the weight on one side of that bar to bring him back in. The Kings last year were walking a wire without that bar. And that's why it was so just boop, boop, really rocky, right? To me, Dennis Schroeder, having a bona fide point guard who knows exactly what his job and role is for this team. It was spelled out, and he was paid well for it too. I feel like he is that bar that could really balance this group out, because you're getting closer to playing players in their natural positions, something the Kings have not done the last couple of seasons. And you're doing it at the most important position. If I had to pick one position on the court where you have to have somebody that is a true bona fide point guard, that is the position that I would start with. You got to start there. That's where the Kings started. So those are some of the things I'm noticing. And, I just like what I'm seeing. I do. Now, that was the salt, or excuse me, that was the sugar. Let me give you the salt. The salt is, this team's undersized. You've got many teams in the NBA that are now going to double bigs. Okay. So how do you countersize? Speed. That's what I think the Kings are thinking, especially when it comes to wanting to play with pace. However, if it was easy to pick up 94 feet, 82 games a year, plus the playoffs, every team would be doing it. Because if you do that, I'm not going to say you're going to be in contention. You're going to be a really good team. So what Doug is asking of them is a huge ask, and time will tell if they're going to be able to do that for 82 games. Can they do it for one preseason game? We find out tomorrow night. Doug's talked about wanting to go with a 10-man rotation. That's the number he has in his head. And I am a little skeptical, personally, if you can do what Doug wants to do with a 10-man rotation. I'm just not sure that that's feasible. Doug's pointed to the Thunder. He's pointed to the Pacers, teams that are constantly coming at you with what feels like hockey line shifts. Right? You can't do that with 10. Those teams went deeper than 10. And in this case with the Kings, they are somewhat positioned from the guard standpoint to be able to go a little bit deeper than 10, but that's a choice that, Doug's going to have to make. In fact, I was speaking yesterday off the record with somebody in the front office, and they were very, very, very complimentary of both the camp that Doug is running, and then also just the buy-in that he's getting from the players. And I asked him about the 10, And he, he didn't give me a clear answer. Well, we'll see. You get into the season. But the one thing he did say was, they've got to address the size. The size is still that missing piece. So it's going to be a work in progress, but at least we have, or we kind of see, in my opinion, an alternate route to success other than rolling the basketball out and scoring more points than the opponent. That's the way that I look at it. So, in fact, we've got audio from yesterday. I don't have these cataloged about what exactly the question is. We're going to hear from Doug about, I asked him about Keon Ellis. Is he in the mix to be the backup point guard? Somebody asked about, is this feasible? Can you do this for an 82 game season? What Doug wants to do. A number of questions. Then also Dennis Schroeder. I had the opportunity to ask him because him and Malik have been getting into it, which we totally expected, right? But it's kind of bled down to the rest of the group. The rest of the group's kind of getting a little chippy with each other, and that is exactly what you want to see. So I asked Dennis about that as well. But let's start with this one from Doug Christie yesterday.
It's a copycat league. People see, like before Golden State won a championship, they said you couldn't shoot three-pointers and win a championship. When I got into coaching, all I heard was you can't pick up 94 feet. What do you want to play 10 players? And I'm like, well, yeah, if that's what's required to play 94 feet. And then so since we've seen it in the finals with both teams, everyone's like, yo, that's what we're going to do. So, I mean, you'll see. I mean, it's harder than you think it is. I mean, to say pick up 94 feet and don't go get a guy like Dennis Schroeder, you're kind of blowing smoke. But we went and got a guy who sets the tone in that regard. So for us, that's realistic. And now we just have to hold each other accountable. Coaches to players, and definitely players to players.
So that was Doug's answer to whether or not this is feasible. And he's right. And when he took over last year, I can't remember the exact game that it was, like which number in the season. It would be nearly impossible to try to implement what Doug wants to do, what his vision is as a head coach. You can't implement that in the middle of the season. So that's why I think there was this big emphasis on Doug getting a full training camp to get this in. And Drew Eubanks on practice Saturday was asked about camp. In fact, almost every player that we've talked to, and when I say we, I'm talking about the collective media that goes to practice, has been asked about how this training camp's been different than other training camps you've been a part of. In fact, I think we have a cut from Dennis Schroeder, who was asked that yesterday as well. And Drew Eubanks said it's the hardest training camp that he's been a part of. And he said, I love it. I love it. So take that for what you will. Here is Coach Christie again yesterday. Not sure what cut this is, but we will give it some context after the fact.
I would say a higher level of physicality on a continuous level. Like we are being more physical for longer periods of time, recognizing that we want to pick up 94 feet, that, we got to hold each other accountable when that doesn't happen, that we're communicating at a high level. So there's a level of communication, a level of physicality, but all those things you can do it one time, but will you do it over and over again? And that's probably the biggest part that I want to see and I like to see.
So still speaking to what we're talking about, hit first. Dennis Schroeder yesterday, I believe this is the question I asked him about the battling with Malik and the importance of that being contagious for the rest of the team.
I can't call out one.
Oh, no, excuse me. This is who's impressed him so far in camp.
particular name. I think everybody gave it their all. I think everybody is competing on the high level. The works impressed me as well, I gotta say. Did a great job of competing, but everybody's engaged. Everybody is, willingness to win and put the team first. Been really, really great.
So that's kind of generic. Dennis was also asked about again that same question that I told you. Every player has been asked, how is this camp different? Here's what he had to say.
I like the togetherness here. Coaches, players, it's no separation. It's all together. Everybody coming together. Everybody speaking with each other. Try to get better. Everybody normally does the same things. I feel like, but here already the front office, the people around, just making sure that you're good on and off the court. It's been impressive for me and my family, and we enjoy it so far.
Interesting that he mentions the front office. I like that. And then I believe this is our last cut. Dennis and his battles with Malik and it helping the rest of the team out.
I think that's what it takes. I think we got to make each other uncomfortable to get better every single day. I think if we don't do it in training camp, we're not going to do it in the real game. So we got to do it to us first. 94 feet, talk a little trash, be competitive, and then we go out on Wednesday and do the same thing against the other team.
What do you think of the on-ball defense?
So that was Dennis. We'll play some more Doug here in a few minutes. Sanchez says, I think Clifford going to be able to play valuable minutes. Yeah, no doubt about it. If the Kings are going to be successful, he's going to have to play 15 to 20 minutes a night, probably closer to 20. When Jerry and I, during the summer, have Jerry Reynolds Tuesdays here. And we do about a 45-minute conversation each week. And we did our bold predictions for this season. His was that Coach Christie would have tremendous success. And mine was that Neek would be playing more than 20 minutes a game and would make one of the all-rookie teams. Doug Christie, in fact, when I asked about Keon, he brought up Neek's name in the point guard conversation. It's not the first time he's done it. Doug said earlier in camp that he believes Neek can play 1 through 3. And yeah, he's gonna be a big part of what this team does. Also, Max Reynaud. I've been trying to kind of put the puzzle pieces together with this. Where does Max fit into everything? Because I also think he's going to be important. I was a little skeptical. I loved what I saw offensively. I loved the basketball IQ. I loved how polished he was coming from college and into the NBA. Loved some of the things we were hearing from his past coaches, from Grant shared yesterday, what Peja Stojakovic said about him when they were having lunch. I was skeptical about the defensive end of the court. Is Max going to get pushed around? And that's still to be determined. But I also think what's to be determined is where you're going to play Max at. You know, we talked about this being a year that at least you have to have a semblance of an identity. We have to see a clear path forward after this season. And what that comes down to is seeing growth and development and chemistry between what could be the future of this team. And if you look at 4 of those pieces, and we have to give Scott Perry credit, by the way, it was an excellent draft. Excellent draft. Huge draft. Really, really good. Because not only did Scott get 2 guys that were ready to come in and play, they're 2 guys that are versatile, that are older, a little bit more polished, like I said, but they're 2 guys potentially that could play really well together. Not a lot of people are saying that. I would like to see some glimpses this season of what that combination could lead to in the future. The Max and Neek connection. But back to the core, the future, your future pieces. Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, Neek, and Max. Guess what? All four of those guys can be on the court at the same time. I'll repeat that. Now, you probably won't see it much this year, but in the future, that could be 4 key pieces. That could be what you build around here in Sacktown. Now, to Max this season and Doug wanting to play a 10-man rotation, and Dennis is not the only player that's been complimentary of the rookies. Almost every player has been complimentary of the rookies, which isn't always, that does not always get said by the veterans. It doesn't. So the fact that they're saying that, that is a lot of respect. That means that they're working hard. They're asking the right questions. And speaking of working hard, these guys are not just Max and Neek. Yesterday after practice, and remember, these are grueling practices. These are 2.5, 3-hour practices with a decent amount of conditioning. Almost everybody on the team stayed late and was getting extra work to the point where we did not have a second player to interview. So that tells you they're getting ready. They're gearing up for the start of preseason play, which begins tomorrow against Toronto. So let me wrap this thought up about Max, and then we'll get back to the chat. What I'm looking at is the back end of the rotation. I think we know where we're at with the guards. So we have the starting 5, obviously going to be Dennis, Zach, DeMar, Keegan, and Sabonis. Then I think your 3 off the bench that will be playing guard, small forward are going to be Keon, Malik, and Neek. And then you get to the back 2. And you've got 3 guys that are competing for those 2 spots. At this point right now, I think Drew Eubanks is the backup to Domantas Sabonis. I think he is. I'm not saying that Drew Eubanks is a mini Sabonis. I am saying that, and I said it yesterday, he is a little bit more athletic than I thought. He's a little more polished than I thought. He likes to play on the perimeter as well, which isn't a bad thing. It can spread that unit out. And he can pass the ball well. He sees the floor well. So I think Drew right now is your backup center. Now, when it comes to the 4, that's where Max and IJ come into play for me. Max and Isaac Jones. Isaac has done a lot to grow his game this summer. Really was asked to put a 3-point shot in, the corner 3. Did not shoot it well over the summer, but you know what? He shot it. That's what mattered to me. He shot it. He was getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And in camp, he's in 5-on-5s. He shot that shot a couple of times, and it's gone through. So is it going to be IJ or Max? Right now, I think it leans a little bit more towards Max. But depending on the matchups, I think that carousel right there, the Max, the Isaac Jones, and the Drew Eubanks carousel, I think that one's going to keep circulating throughout the season, depending on who you're playing, depending on who's playing well, depending on many different factors. But I do ultimately think that anybody, maybe you will see Max once in a while at the 5. I think you're going to see Max predominantly at the 4. That's just my feeling, my thought. I think he fits better right now at the 4, and you grow him into a 5. You put him on the Keegan Murray plan, the way that Keegan transformed his body. And I think that is a solid 11 guy lineup. Now, if you want a dark horse, somebody that could surprise, everybody always asks me this question because I've covered Stockton so closely the last couple of years. Is there another Keon Ellis on the team? No, there's not. That being said, Isaiah Stevens is a true point guard. He really is. That's what he does. He is a true point guard. And he picks up well. Doug has mentioned him as well. He's a two-way player. I don't expect him to be anywhere near the rotation, but as the season goes along, I would not be shocked if once in a while Doug turns to Isaiah. I wouldn't. Or it's a blowout. Doug turns to Isaiah and Isaiah makes the most of his opportunity. I'd like to find the question where I asked Doug about the point guard position. Maybe this is it because he's kind of looking my way.
I personally think preseason games are valuable.
Oh, this is about preseason games and why he feels they're valuable.
Especially now that we went from 8 to 4, you don't have a lot of time to figure things out. So there's a higher priority on putting things in, on executing, on looking at live game reps versus practice. That's very, very important. So we'll be, scrutinizing that tape like we do in practice, but now it's versus an opponent. Timing's different. There's just a lot of things that are different in the game than you get ever in practice.
To be seen, Flores. I know they worked a lot together in the summer. The problem is the Kings' priority right now is not going to be developing their two-man game. That's not what they're going to be doing. So I think that's something that you'll want to, it's a long-term play. And when I say long-term, it's past this season. It's something that's going to have to develop over, this season here and there, definitely next summer. I personally, if those guys come through summer camp or come through the season clean and don't have a ton of injuries, I'm playing both of them in summer league again next year. That's just me, but we'll see. I want to get to the point guard question. I'm playing Doug Christie roulette here, hoping that I can find the right answer. Maybe this is going to be it.
Well, if it doesn't, then we're going to keep.
Okay, this is is he seeing the conditioning, the extra conditioning working, and are the guys getting used to it when it comes to making free throws and their shots?
Doing it. So, free throws are important for us, man. We want to get to the free throw line. We want to set our defense. We want to ice games. We want to get back in games. That's a big part of basketball. So points per possession is huge. So we got to make sure it's something that we really lock in on. We put those guys in situations where they're tired and they have to focus.
It really is. This whole thing about picking up 94 feet and setting our defense, it's out the door if the Kings are not making shots and getting to the free throw line. Because if you're in transition, you're not picking up 94. You're in transition. You're communicating. You're getting back. You're making sure everybody's on somebody. So we know how important free throws are. I've documented that the last 3 years. The dip between the 48 win season and the 46 win season is ridiculous. The dip in free throws that the Kings took. It's almost 20%. And not percentage, quantity, 20%. Last year, the Kings through, I want to say the first 12 to 15 games, they were number 1 in free throw attempts and number 2 in percentage. That's what kept their plus minus, or what we call their net rating, the stat that never lies about a basketball team. It's what kept it buoyant, even though they were at or below 500 at points. Okay, can I find my answer from Doug? So the preface of my question, I said I was going to ask this yesterday when we were doing the King's Court, was Keon was asked a couple times about working on his 3-point shot off the dribble. How's that been going this summer? And he really deferred about his shot and said, I've been more focused on making sure that I know everybody else's spots, making sure they're in positions to be successful, seeing the court properly. And then I worry about my offense. And I'm like, he's thinking like a point guard. Is he trying to work his way in there? Because he can pick up 94 feet. Handle, did it get better over summer? Hard to say because we've only seen limited 5-on-5s. But I asked Doug the question. Hopefully this is the right cut.
Don't really know yet. I mean, there are a few different things that I've thought about.
Oh, no, this is about how he's going to coach tomorrow.
Rotation wise, but we'll see. I mean, the game will dictate a little bit, but I think we're going to go in with a mindset of something and probably stay pretty close to script, but still figuring it out.
All right. That leaves me with like only one drop left. Come on, coach. Where's my answer?
Yeah, I mean, that's we got him, we got Malik, we got DC, we got Isaiah. I even think Neek can play some there. So we're gonna have to see how it goes once they get out there. But yeah, I mean, we have a legitimate bona fide starter, but we're not gonna play him the whole game. So there's gonna be a point where we go to a backup point guard, and that point guard needs to be able to set the table, to run the offense, to be the head of the snake on the defense. So those are all things that they'll all be judged upon.
So if I'm looking at the roster right now, and if having a bona fide backup point guard is essential, certainly it's essential to this team in general, because the Kings targeted Dennis Schroeder. They needed that bona fide point guard for the first unit. You're not going to go to the second unit and do point guard by committee. You need to have a true backup point guard. And as this roster sits today, they don't. Isaiah Stevens is probably the closest thing to a true point guard. Now, he is not ready to be in the rotation. No offense to Isaiah. Not ready yet. So if I'm looking at need, and maybe this is again, this could be the Neek formula, because Neek has played point guard pretty much all his life up until college. The Kings, I think, and this is just my hunch, I think they are heavily stacking the chips on the side of, we think Neek is going to run that second unit eventually at some point this season. I think that is the hope if things go right. Because when you have Neek running the point, and again, defense is going to be just as important as offense for that player. But when you have Neek running the point, you have some size at the point as well, too. And point guards in the league are getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. But to me, those are the needs. Like, if I had to really scrutinize the roster, it's size and probably a true backup point guard. And no, Dennis, that's not Russell Westbrook. No, that's not a guy that's coming in to facilitate. That's not a guy that's coming in to pick up 94 feet. It's not Russell Westbrook. Just saying. So will the Kings be able? I mean, is there going to be any interest throughout the NBA when it comes to some of these back end guys? I'm not sold that Devin Carter is going to be a King by the end of the season. I'm not sold on that. If this thing's not going right, do the Kings become sellers at the trade line? I don't know. There's so many things, and I don't even want to get into that conversation. But I guess with having such a backload of guards that Doug Christie has inherited, and especially this is the point to hammer home, they're combo guards. Combo guards. For whatever reason, Mike Brown and Monty McNair were obsessed with combo guards. The one guy, it's funny. He took so much from this fan base at times. But if you ask Doug Christie off the record how much he would probably like to have a Davion Mitchell right now, he'd probably be very happy with that. He would want that. So Davion in Miami doing big things. But again, not trying to get down on any of the guys on this roster. I like what I see so far from pretty everyone. I'm not going to say pretty much. I've liked what I have seen. So can it translate tomorrow night? First test. As a rook coming in, you have DeMar and you have Levine, you have Sabonis and you have Dennis. You got to be super happy. I mean, Neek, look around, number 5. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what's cool about that is these guys have been sponges. I mean, yeah, you can be super lucky to be surrounded by those guys. That's all great and good unless you apply it, unless you get the most out of being in that situation. And by all accounts, that's what those two have done. Now you have Keon, Neek, Keegan. Yeah, why are we just going over the roster, Dennis? Where is playing Max at? That is, are they playing zone or just man? There's been no talk of zone defense in this camp so far. None. I don't think any of us have wanted to breach that quite yet. I think we need to see at least a few preseason games, indefinitely a sample size of probably 10 regular season games before we know that. And I mean, zone isn't a bad thing. This is a team that probably needs to play some zone, but you don't want to be relying on zone in training camp. You're hoping that what you're putting in defensively is going to work. And I think we need to acknowledge really quick as we get ready to wrap up, because my coffee is starting to get cold, is last year's team, when I think of the deficiencies, when I think of the types of mistakes they were making, when I think of ways that they lost, one thing comes to mind. It's basketball IQ. The IQ just was not there at times. And that's across the board. This team, although made up of many of the same players, the IQ is much higher than what they showed last year. Now, probably a combination of guys having to play out of position, point guard by committee, etc. But when I get to the mistakes part of it, a lot of these things were not major things. They were very simple basketball plays. They're controllable. What I'm getting at is if the Kings can just control some of the controllables and bring that back, by default, the team's going to be a little bit better already. Just even passing. The passing last year was subpar. In fact, I plan to ask Doug about that today. The importance of if you beat your defender, how important is it that you keep that advantage and make a solid pass into the shooting pocket for your teammate. Think about guys having to jump like they're doing the vert at the combine to catch a ball. Guys that have to shuffle over, reach their arms way out so the ball doesn't go out of bounds. That's not built into a natural shooting motion. So again, stuff like that, passing, simple things could make a significant difference for this team. Combo guards are great, but combo guards are the worst. Yeah. It just depends on the scheme that you're running. That's really what it comes down to. I want a John Stockton type of point guard. No glory, just hard work and efficiency. You know, there is David Stockton, who was in the G League last year and did play for the Kings at one point. I bet he's floating around somewhere. It's as simple as like a Phoenix. He went from a two-way and now he is on the main roster. Colin Gillespie, good, solid point guard, right? I mean, when I think of point guard, I'm thinking about your like a TJ McConnell, right? And the Kings aren't going to be able to go out and get TJ, but just somebody that, yeah, it sets hard screens, knows the floor exactly. And you know what? Maybe that guy is on this roster. That's what training camp's for. That's what the preseason is for. These guys have put in a ton of work over the summer. And we get our first dress rehearsal tomorrow night at the G1C Toronto, rolling into Sacramento. Anybody going to the game? You're going to be going to the game. I will be going for sure after the show today or tomorrow night. The coffee is... No, it's below hot. It's just warm, which means we need to wrap up. We had to wrap up anyways because I got to get rolling downtown. But we've still got a full day of coverage coming your way. Thank you for everybody that's been here this morning on the Kings Court shoot around. We're doing these Monday through Friday, so long as I do not have a commitment with the Kings. Don't forget, you're going to get Grant back tonight, open forum, 7 o'clock tonight here on the channel. And before that, we're hitting the airwaves like we do Monday through Friday. Fox Sports Radio, 104.7 FM, 890 AM, 3 to 6 p.m. live, taking your calls and your text messages. You can text the show now. The easiest way to listen, and we do stream to YouTube, no video, but you do get the audio. The easiest way to listen, download the Fox Sports Radio app, the KSAC app. It's available in the Google Play and Apple stores, completely free, no geographic boundaries. You can listen from anywhere. So download the app and you can listen to us while we're live. If you can't listen live, all of the shows are temporarily being hosted on Grant's podcasts platform, so you know where to find that if you don't like that, obviously. Also, Kings Court, give us some love, give us a follow, a listen, a thumbs up, whatever it may be. Really appreciated. Y'all are the best. Great questions today. Looking forward to reporting back to all of you. By the way, texting the show was pretty easy. You know what, Flores? We made sure of that. Let me ask you a question, Flores. If you texted the show and then you got a text back that asked you to sign up to text the show, you probably wouldn't do it, right? I don't think you'd do it. I wouldn't do it. That's what I told them. So we got that fixed. You don't have to worry about that. Text the show. It comes right to us. It's right there on the screen. And call the show. Where are y'all at? Give us a call, 916-779-0929. Hit us up on the phones. Would love to hear from you. But again, headed out to Kings practice right now. I'm going to be back at 3 p.m. Fox Sports Radio. Join us, the Grand Napier Show. Live. We are efforting Jerry Reynolds. Doesn't mean he's going to be on. We're efforting Jerry Reynolds. So we'll see if we can get the one and only. Maybe we'll get one of these today.
That's a great question.
Yeah, see right there. Nah, I like the direct for sure. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. But yeah, all right, we're out. Fox, 3 p.m. Can't wait to talk to you. We'll have the latest from Kings Camp. If you want some info before that, pay attention to or follow my X account, Ryan in Sacktown, at Ryan_in_. _Sacktown. Make it a great rest of the morning. And looking forward to talking to you at 3 p.m. today on Fox Sports Sacramento. Until then, go Kings. Light the beam. We out.
Order in the court.